Hi, are you good at math? Because we're gonna start this video with the equation. What is the outcome of passion plus love plus 2.5 years? In this video we will look for the proverbial x from this equation. It's 15th of August 2024. Steam just saw a release from Explosive Squad Games. Although SteamDB charts do not reflect the success of young Roman, the game is warmly received by the players. But who is Roman, also known as a spy? Well, spy is a powerhouse, and trust me, this is not an overstatement. Avid weightlifting and guns enjoyer, game developer and overall cool guy. In the later part of this video I will include the mini interview I was fortunate enough to conduct with Roman. Why is he the powerhouse though? Well, he single-handedly developed both Intravenous I and II. Of course he had some help in the form of commissioned independent artists with sprites, music and sound work. So what is Intravenous II? In this section I will give you a quick rundown. To get a more in-depth analysis, skip to the timestamp on a screen. Clearly a second installment in the franchise. The game itself, if I had to define it myself, is a Splinter Cell with a 2D top-down view. The game lets you pick your own playstyle. Stealth is not the only option, but playing patiently and sneakily is by far the most safe option for all the players. It is really hard to accurately put a finger on this game, which is by no means a bad thing. The mixture of 2D sprites, really punchy sound design, thought-out maps, amazing lightning effects and pretty interesting story is well enough to justify the investments of $18 if you're into stealth shooters, of course. Now, for the more in-depth analysis and the micro-interview I did with Spy, who's the sole developer of the game, I asked him 6 general questions and one very personal, which he was nice enough to answer. When did the development of Intravenous II start and how much did it take to finish?
Development formally started in February of 2022. So in total, it took me 2.5 years to make the game, with a lot of work being done in the last 12 months.
Are there any specific things from the games you mentioned at the beginning, JA2, Splinter Cell, Dishonored and so on, that inspired you precisely? And I don't mean things like iconic notes toggle or visibility meter, for instance.
Not really, I just stuck with the principles of you can't have it all, and guns are very dangerous when designing the core gameplay. Stealth can't be tense without a feeling of uncertainty danger. And making the game too easy would have impacted that negatively.
Are you the only person working on this project, or you just do the majority of heavy lifting?
I'm the sole creator of the game. No one else worked on making the game. For art assets, sound assets, and the soundtrack I commissioned people.
Regarding the graphics, I got immediately drawn to the conclusion that you also had some kind of inspiration from first GTA games, especially when looking at the vehicle models. Am I right, or just deluded?
No, that's not right at all. It's just a top-down game.
Is this title your magnum opus, or you're just set on creating more in the future? Considering the current gaming landscape, it is extremely refreshing to see someone dedicating so much passion and time to create a product of love.
For the time being, yes, it's my magnum opus. But I am hoping to work on more ambitious projects in the future.
A slight off-topic question, are you Lithuanian? I drafted intro to this script saying that somewhere in the old lands of once widely known Commonwealth, which is a reference to Poland and Lithuania being one country at one point in the history.
I'm Russian by ethnicity, Lithuanian by nationality.
The hardest question. If you don't feel like answering, it's totally fine. Is the storyline somewhat connected to your personal struggles with your dad's health issues? I have read your tweet about your dad's passing, my condolences. As I stated in XDMs, I'm a small YouTuber who does content on gaming and my most viewed video is about Gordon Freeman and his analysis. But to the point, as I'm working on a video about Intravenous II, I would like to dedicate a huge part of it to the story and I just can't help to draw some parallels between the story of the game and your story.
Yes, the story is a metaphor for the feelings I was going through when my dad was deathly ill with COVID. It was so bad we, my mother and I, thought he wasn't going to make it. But thankfully he pulled through.
As you have seen, Roman is a passionate game developer who does not want to end his career on Intravenous I and II. But sadly, there is also a heartbreaking story behind the development, and it manifests in the game itself. Before I even started the research for this video, I played for like an hour or two just grabbing the footage, and I felt something was crawling under those pixels. I should warn you now that this section will contain partial spoilers of the game's story, so if you'd like to play through the game by yourself, which I highly recommend, skip to the timestamp shown on the screen now. After my first 2-hour session I decided to do some digging. I googled the Explosive Squad games, but it didn't bring me any meaningful results, so I googled Roman Glebenkov himself and I found his X account, where I found this tweet. Spy has gone through something that many of us did in the not-so-distant past. My wife's grandmother unfortunately passed away right before Christmas Eve of 2021, and I know what impact it has on an individual. It actually is a really beautiful thing for Spike to do, to immortalize his father in this piece of art he has created. The story of the game revolves around you and your father. You begin your adventure in Empathetic's restaurant. As a side note, the name of establishment fits your agenda really smoothly, which gave me Continental vibes from John Wick's movies. You pick up gigs as a gun for hire, but only those that will result in getting rid of the scammiest people on Earth. You do this to finance the treatment for your father, as without it he will go blind. It's interesting if the metaphor Roman was talking about reaches this far. After talking to the only person you can trust in this fine joint, you head back to your apartment. The flat section serves a nice tutorial purpose, as you are shown how to lockpick, how to interact with lights via the switches and so on. Also, big props to the game, as you can tick a box which won't let the tutorial prompts interrupt your gameplay. After you prep for the first gig where you have to take out a construction scammer, you arrive in front of his mansion he has no business renting. First mission, as it should, takes it easy on you, as it is extension of the previous tutorial. After dealing or sneaking past all his bodyguards, you confront an aptly named character, Scambag. He tries to weasel his way out of this situation, but you came here to claim him, so you do. Payment goes through, you're one step closer to finance your father's treatment. Next time you visit Empathetic, you're presented with a new gig. One that instantly assures you that the target has to be eliminated. Your next objective is involved in child trafficking. You are dead set on eliminating this unnecessary and malicious element of the society. You get through his bodyguards and finally reach a room where he resides. But something ain't right. He seems really clueless, just as someone who is not involved in what he's accused of. You swore that you will only get rid of people that deserve it. He doesn't, especially with his wife and kids behind the doors, so you let him go, and this decision just sets some dire things into the motion. You pick up your phone, but do not recognize the voice of the caller. It doesn't really matter, as you feel like you've been hit by a speeding truck. They got your father. His eyesight is now the least of your concerns. You still fight for his life, but this time the stakes are way higher. You are forced to do the jobs for them from now on. And this is the point where the story unfolds. I don't want to spoil it anymore, so I wholeheartedly recommend you buy the game and play it for yourself. This chapter might spark some discussions, and understandably so. In the age of AAA games, indie titles with fractions of the budgets big publishers are giving away tend to steer towards more timeless yet simplified visuals. Nothing wrong with that. Pixel art graphics tend to age really well, and despite time constantly running, they will still look as great as on the day they were released. Throughout your playthrough you will feel a huge nostalgia wave taking you over, as tons of individual models or graphics will remind you of the golden age of gaming. Intermission cutscenes remind me of old point-and-click adventure games such as Monkey Island. Car models remind me of a GTA 2. It's like a nostalgia concoction fed through your headset and monitor, and damn, it's a good one. Hand-drawn portraits of your character and other NPCs also look like they were inspired by real people, such as Steve from Intravenous I, looking like Spike himself. Even though the graphics can be called pixelated or low-res, almost everything is perfectly readable, and rarely I had an issue differentiating interactable objects. The only gripe I had was the extra collectibles that can blend in with some environments, but to be perfectly honest, after a couple of hours of gameplay you shouldn't have any problem with finding them. Now to the meat of the game, the gameplay. Admittedly, I only clocked in 15 hours so far, but I think I have experienced enough to talk about my feelings. And the feeling is sensational. If you ever played Hotline Miami, Splinter Cell, Jagged Alliance 2 or Dishonored, you will feel right at home. Somewhat limited maps have numerous routes you can take to get to your final objective, no matter if you go in stealthily or guns blazing. At the first glance the loop might be a tad shallow, but once you get into customizing your loadouts to fit your playstyle, the title gains almost infinite replayability. You want to go non-lethal? Get yourself a taser, trunk gun, shock mines, empty mags for audio distractions. You wanna go balls to the wall? Get yourself an AR-15 with extended mag and a scope, a Kevlar, flashbangs and HE grenades. But don't expect the game to handhold you or treat you generously. Every gun has a weapon, and each weapon is deadly. Even if you have a body armor, you are still 2 or 3 shots away from perishing from this mortal plane. Regarding the weapons modding, the game utilizes really neat tricks with limited options provided by the game engine. For instance, if you install a 4x ACOG scope on your AR-15 rifle and you aim through it, everything except your cone of vision gets blurred. I really like how Intravenous draws ideas from the first 2 installments of Splinter Cell, not only with its HUD, but also mechanics. Mechanics such as how loud or visible you are. On the other hand, the gunplay is abnormally satisfying, which I did not expect at all from the top-down game. Granted, I have never played Hotline Miami, but still an impressive feat. Shots are impactful, and it doesn't matter if you're the one shooting or you're on the receiving end of the barrel. Shooting, despite being trained to use guns, is also a slight skill check for you, as you can't really happily run and gun or spray and pray. If you're looking for a challenge, you will find it even on the normal difficulty level due to saves being limited per every mission. Of course, you will be granted more and more while progressing through the gig, but you should be a tad thrifty with your save scamming. To sum up, the gameplay loop is really engaging and has potentially limitless replayability, with different difficulty settings which you can adjust to your liking. On top of that, you can replay the game on the New Game Plus, and supposedly with mods which are on the horizon, but not yet confirmed by Spy. To summarize this video, I will go back to the equation I mentioned at the beginning. Passion plus love plus 2.5 years equals X. So, what does the X equal to? Well, to be completely frank with you guys, I always sucked at math during my school days, but this equation is basic elementary school shit. X equals hella good game. I got nothing to add. Yes, there may be people who won't find it an interesting enough title to invest their money and time into, but you have to trust me on that. $18 for hours upon hours of content and great amount of fun is a steal in this day and age. If you loved OG Splinter Cells, Jagged Alliance 2 or immersive sims like Dishonored or Prey 2016, I assure you this will be a money well spent. To be honest, we as gaming community you should steer away from feeding this huge machine called AAA publishers and start to appreciate small indie devs who put blood, sweat and tears into their projects, as rarely nowadays we can experience big releases which ooze of passion just like Intravenous does. As always, it has been a pleasure making content for you all. If you liked the video or you are better than me at math, consider leaving a sub and thumbs up or down as it helps me grow. Also, please check the description box as I will drop the Intravenous store page link there. See you in the next one. Uh-oh.